Hi everybody, so it's me. I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about my Winterween TBR. Winterween is such a fun concept to me. This is a readathon hosted by Gabby Reads. She also does Summerween, which I also think is really fun, but this is just an opportunity to read some spooky books out of the spooky season. So there are 5 prompts. It goes from January 5th to January 11th. I'm filming this intro on January 5th. It's a little bit later. It's like 5 p.m. But, I've got, 7 days to read? The prompts, the books that I'm going to be reading for the prompts, and how excited I am to get into this. So, there are 5 prompts. So the first prompt is read a book in the dark. So, I could easily read any of these books in the dark, but I wanted to pick something that's a little bit spooky, so I picked Horrid by Katrina Leno. Something about this cover is so unsettling to me. So this is a YA horror novel that explores themes of mental illness, rage, and grief. So this girl moves to a house in Maine with her mom, but then the house has something going on in it. I just think this might be a little bit creepy to read in the dark. It's been on my TBR for a really long time. So when I picked this prompt, I picked a book for this prompt. I wanted to pick something that's spooky and maybe gonna give me a little heebie-jeebies. So I picked this, Horrid by Katrina Leno. Book I'm gonna read in the dark. Next prompt is read a book with a witch on the cover. So for this, I'm going to be reading The Witch's Heart. This is a book that, again, I almost read a few years ago, but something stopped me. It says, when a banished witch falls in love with a legendary trickster Loki, she risks the wrath of gods in this moving, subversive national best-selling debut novel. So it's Norse mythology. Maybe not terribly spooky, but still kind of, winter. I think it'll be a fun one to read. Something that's maybe not spooky. Maybe a little bit more mythology-based, but still, has a witch on the cover. And then the next prompt is read a book with a W in the title. For that one, I picked Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This is a super spooky book about a sea exploration. People go down, then they don't come back, and then I think years later they try to do a documentary to figure out what actually happened. And something was down there. I don't know what it is. And so this has a W in the title. There's W in Drowning. I'm really excited to read this one. I bought it. I have it over there. I'm not going to read it because I'm lazy, but I think this will be really fun. I'm really glad I was able to incorporate this into this because I just bought this one, so I've been really excited to read it, and it is going to be spooky. The next prompt is read a book with a snowy or winter setting. For that, I'm reading No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is my first Taylor Adams book, and I do believe this is, I think a woman gets trapped. Oh, yes, so it's like a locked box sort of thriller. She's in a remote rest stop with 4 complete strangers, and then in the back of the van of one of the cars parked there's a little girl locked in an animal crate. Super twisty. This came out a while ago, and I've always wanted to read it. Just super twisty, winter setting, snowy, can't escape, who can you trust? Definitely gonna be terrifying, and I know we're supposed to get snow. I think we're supposed to get snow kind of soon. It's supposed to get really cold here where I live. So we're probably going to get snow soon. So maybe that'll be good. The final prompt is read a book with purple on the cover. So for that, I am reading The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gold. This is a YA book about things that lurk in dark corners. Teenagers are disappearing in this really small town. The weather isn't normal. Ghost hunters come to town. And then these 2 girls team up to figure out what is happening. It's got purple on the cover. Again, it's something that's been on my TBR for a really long time, so really excited to read this one. So I think I'm going to start with, I might start with The Dead in the Dark. I'm between starting with The Dead in the Dark or The Witch's Heart, or maybe Into the Drowning Deep? I don't know. I don't want to read No Exit yet because maybe in 2 days it'll be a little kind of snowy and blustery outside. So I might wait for that. And then I don't want to read Horrid yet because it's not quite dark enough. I want to read it in bed when it's completely dark and very spooky. So that's my TBR. And I'm really excited to participate in a readathon. I totally missed Summerween, so I'm really excited to be a part of this, film, kind of like see what other people are reading, watch other people's videos. So I'm really excited. So let's start this video. Hi everybody, little mini update. So it is day 5 of Winterween, and I finally finished a book. So while I was really enjoying The Witch's Heart, I feel like it was not the vibe. It was not spooky enough. It was more kind of just like a really good mythology. Hello. Got a little window thing. Oh, it's frisky boy hours. Anyways, I feel like it was more like a slower mythology book and just not really what I was feeling for this readathon. So I put that down for a minute and I started The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gold, and I finished that last night. This is like a YA paranormal story that I really enjoyed. It was also super stormy last night, so the setting, it was like storming and windy, and I was reading this like kind of creepy horror novel. It's kind of like something in this small town is killing teens, and then these two sort of, it's like an unlikely pair, they team up to try and figure out what is going on. And I thought it was good. I thought the kind of like the overall message too was just really sweet, because it is in the end about like love and family, which was really adorable. So I finished that. I think I can't start Horrid until tonight because it's the book I'm reading in the dark. So I'll probably read Into the Drowning Deep. That is a little bit, it's, since I have a physical copy, it's a little bit bigger, but focusing on that today. And then tonight Horrid. Feels good to finish a book. I had to get some chores done, but I'll probably just like find little bits of time to read when I can. So that's my little update for update here. So it is currently January 12th. Winterween ended yesterday. However, I have not read very many books. So I'm going to continue a sort of winter-themed readathon by myself, expanding on Winterween for the next 2 days, I think. But I wanted to update you on what I've been reading. I really enjoyed doing the Winterween. It was really fun to read. It was really fun to kind of motivate me to read some of these wintry, spooky thrillers. I'm going to continue it, but I have been reading Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. I am liking it. It's a little long. So we've just now kind of gotten to the beginning of the climax because they're on the ship, they're out to sea, they're out to the sea, and they've kind of gotten to the point where the previous ship disappeared and sort of starting to see the, like, I wouldn't necessarily call it thriller, I would call it straight up horror. So now we're starting to see sort of the horror aspects of this book come to light. Very creepy. And so I was reading that for a while, but it, again, it's just really long, and sometimes the descriptions of science can be a little bit blocky for me, which is okay. I totally respect what the author was going for here, but sometimes it is hard to read a whole paragraph about oceanography and stuff. So I kind of paused that last night, and then I started No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is a locked box thriller novel about a woman who is driving home and gets stranded at this rest stop with other people, and then she sees a child locked in the back of one of the vans. And she's like, oh my god, somebody here is a kidnapper. And it's her trying to kind of figure out who did it. I read this book in one night. I couldn't put it down. It was super spooky to read at night. It's really cold here right now. We haven't gotten any snow, so I kind of wanted to read this book when it was snowy. But unfortunately, it was going to snow. But anyways, I couldn't stop reading this book. It was definitely less mystery. I think more just, like, thriller. Because you kind of figure out what's going on pretty early. And then you're just trying to survive. And it was very gruesome. And a little bit, I'll talk about this book a little bit more later, but I did have some mixed feelings on it. I couldn't decide if I liked it or if I hated it. There were some elements that were included that made me uncomfortable a little bit. Point of views that we got that I wasn't loving that we got. And the way they were portrayed were a little bit unsettling. But overall, I did find it super engaging and super interesting, and I couldn't put it down because I did have to see kind of what happened. Even though the mystery aspect is pretty easily solvable, the thriller aspect of trying to stay alive, you can't run, it's snow up to your waist, no cell service, no one coming for hours, how do you survive? I'm going to go read some more. I think I'm going to read Trying to Finish Drowning, Into the Drowning Deep today, and then read Horrid tonight. That was my book that I wanted to read in the dark. So, I mean, that's just a shorter kind of like gothic horror thriller. So, I would like to read that tonight in the dark, but I'm scared to read a book in the dark. I'm like, how in the dark does it have to be? Like, if my TV's on, is that fine? I don't know. I'm scared to read a book in the dark. I was even reading No Exit last night. I started it and immediately I wanted to wake up my partner and be like, I'm spooked. Especially because the power went out last night. I was reading Into the Drowning Deep and I just kept the power came back on pretty fast, but I don't know, looking at the dark door and being like, is there gonna be a mermaid that's gonna crawl through and kill me right now? Maybe. That's my little update for right now. I know Winterween is over, but I'm going to keep reading winter books and just keep filming this video. So, that's my little update for right want to say it is snowing outside, and it's so funny that I didn't get this weather for Winterween. I'm having it now. Right? I really forgot to film like a ending bit for this reading vlog, but Winterween. It was really, really fun. I had a really good time reading spooky books. I'm a little bit disappointed that today, when I'm like going to edit and post this video, is the day that the snow has started. Would have loved this back when I was reading some spooky books, but overall, this was really fun. I really liked reading thrillers. It was windy and cold, and I was like cuddled up and reading books, and so I had a lot of fun with that. I ended up reading 4 out of the 5 books I had planned. And so I hit 4 out of the 5 prompts. I did do an extra 2 days over other people, but I did have a really busy week during the official time of Winterween, so we're gonna allow it. But let's talk about the books that I read. The first book that I finished was the prompt, read a book with purple on the cover, and that was The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gold. This is a YA paranormal horror. We have Logan, who comes to this really small town of Snakebite, Oregon with her dads, and her dads have a like paranormal investigation show. And they come back to Snakebite, they are actually from there, to investigate these teens that have just been mysteriously going missing. Snakebite is a super small town, so it's super weird that teenagers are going missing and turning up dead, and nobody knows why. And then we have Ashley. Ashley is from Snakebite, and her boyfriend was one of the first people to go missing. So we kind of see Logan and Ashley teaming up to kind of figure out what's going on behind the scenes. They're doing some investigating, and what they uncover is nothing that they could have predicted. I really enjoyed this one. This was a fun yet spooky YA story. I really liked Logan and Ashley together. I thought they were both really fun characters, and I liked that their differences in sort of investigation styles and just their different personalities just brought out different, how many times can I say different? Brought out different aspects of each other's personality. Didn't really predict the ending of this story. I think looking back, it isn't super mind-boggling, but I still had a lot of fun reading this. I think that if you're looking for something spooky that isn't gonna scare you a lot, like I wasn't terrified when reading this book. I was a little bit creeped out, but I wasn't like under the covers. I think this would be a great book for something that is a little bit spooky and a little bit scary, but not totally gonna like rattle you. I just think this was a really solid paranormal horror book. It makes me want to read more from Courtney Gold because I really enjoyed this one. I like the writing style, I like the setting. It does take place in the summer, so reading it for Winterween was a little bit interesting, but no, I still think this is a very solid book. And then I read No Exit by Taylor Adams. This book I read in one night because I couldn't put it down. This is a thriller novel about a woman named Darby who, on her way home for Christmas, gets sort of stranded in this rest stop with 4 other people. Upon getting stranded at the rest stop, Darby, when just walking around in the snow, because there's like feet of snow, she sees a child locked in the back of a van. What is the child doing there? And so Darby is sort of figuring out, how can she get this child out? What is she gonna do? Is the person that has her dangerous? This is not a mystery, because you find out who the kidnapper is really, really early on. So it's more of like a locked box, staying alive kind of thriller. And I am really conflicted on this book. I read it in one day, and it was fun. Well, it was engrossing. I was engaged. I didn't want to put it down. But I think that the dialogue and the characters kind of am changing how I felt about it. There is a character in this book that I hated, and you're supposed to hate him, but I just think that there were a lot of tidbits that the author included that you really could have gone without. This book was just weird. And I think if you want a quick, fast, wintry thriller, it's a good go-to. It was like, my heart was pounding. I really needed to know how it ended. But I don't know. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite book, but it was okay. I think that just like some of the dialogue that the characters had and like their interactions between each other, I don't know. I liked Darby, though. I think she was a badass, but she had a lot going on. I don't know. I really am. I've had like 4 days to think about how I felt about this book, and I still can't figure out how I felt about this book. But again, a good, fast-paced thriller, if that's what you're in the mood for. And then I read Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This is the book that I read for Read a Book with a W in the title. This is a book about mermaids, sort of. This is a like science fiction horror story. We see 7 years ago, a boat went out to the Marianas Trench to try to find mermaids. Then that boat lost all contact, and then the boat was found floating with every single person on it gone. Like, obviously there had been some carnage, and then we see footage getting released of what appears to be mermaids attacking and murdering everybody on this boat. 7 years later, Victoria Stewart, I believe she goes by Tori, her sister was on the boat, and she decides to go on the second iteration of this boat. They are prepared. They have security. They have people with guns. They have all these preparations. And they're going back to find the mermaids and see if that footage is actually a hoax and see if they can actually sort of market it. The company in this is called Imagine, and they make money on marketing sort of cryptids, either real or manufactured. And so the boat takes off. Will they find the mermaids, and will the mermaids kill them? I did like this book. It is longer. Some of these sciencey bits kind of dragged on for me personally. I know it is a science fiction novel, and if I was more into science, I think I would have liked it a little bit more. But it was a fun book. I think that it had the right amount of horror. I think that it was bone-chilling. It was unsettling. The descriptions of the mermaids were so creepy. And it definitely kept me on the edge of my seat seeing who would survive. I think this is a really good book, especially if you are interested in linguistics. I really, really like this book. I would really like to pick up the prequel about what happened to the first ship, Agitardus, I believe it was called. But overall, I had a lot of fun reading this book. And then the final book that I read for this is the book that I read in the dark. Technically, I read a lot of these books in the dark, but this is the one that I read 100% in the dark, and that is Horrid by Katrina Leno. This is a YA horror mystery novel. We have Jane and her mother, and Jane and her mother are back in Maine after the death of Jane's father. Heart attack, really sudden, and they don't have any money. So they have to go back to Jane's mom's sort of like childhood home that she's inherited in a super small town in Maine. Very different, this was definitely like spooky autumnal vibes for sure. It's in this town, it's small, it was very atmospheric. We see Jane and her mom in this house, and something's happening in this old house. Something creepy that we don't know what it is. And Jane is kind of trying to figure out, is her mother keeping secrets? Is there something horrid in this house? And so it's really a story about Jane, and Jane's grief is really palpable here. She is really, really struggling with the loss of her father. So if that is triggering to you at all, I would say that read the trigger warnings, because the grief was really, there was a lot of it here. This book was pretty interesting. It wasn't anything revolutionary, but I still really enjoyed it. I think that the setting that the author created, I think that I would have loved more character development. We just kind of see character development with Jane, sort of, but like all the other characters in the story are kind of like props to further Jane. and her story and her trying to figure out what's going on with her family. That was fine, but I think it would have been nice to have, like, the other characters have a little bit more personality. And then the ending was honestly a little bit crazy. I did enjoy it, though. I think this was all of the books that I read were just really good. They fit the vibe. They kept me engaged, and I think that I had a really great time participating in Winterween. So those are the spooky books that I read. I will maybe talk a little bit more about them in depth when I do my January wrap-up, but till then, you know, stay tuned for more videos. My name's Emma, and thank you for watching my channel. So let me know if there's any books I should read, any videos I should do, but until then, I hope you have a great day and everybody stays warm. Bye.